Hey guys, this is Mark Goldberg from Mark Vlogs Watches. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to talk to you about the whole concept of being put off of Rolex. That's a topic that is affecting so many people today. A lot of people jumping off the brand because they're angry. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of that video, what do you think's on this wrist? What brand could it be? Let's do the quick fist watch check and we'll jump into the meat and potatoes of this video. And here we go. Fellas, do me a solid and subscribe to this channel so I can see you again soon. Hit like so YouTube knows I'm here, and thank you for joining me. Today, guys, I'm not even wearing a Rolex. I'm wearing a quirky watch. This is a Ball World Time Diver. It does a lot of different functions. The brand, Rolex. Look, you either love it or you hate it, and honestly, I think an awful lot of the people who love it are now angry at the brand and sort of hate it. The things that are affecting collectors are not necessarily the same mentality that the normal watch buyer has. So first, let's get this following thing out of the way. It's not my fault. So if you're angry at the brand, I am not here necessarily to defend them, but I do want to clarify a few things, or at least give you my opinion. So this is going to be a little bit of a ramble right here. The first thing we have to do is we have to distinguish Rolex, the manufacturer, they are in Geneva, Switzerland, from Rolex, the authorized dealer, the AD, and they are all over the world. The ADs, for the most part, are individual or maybe corporate chains that have anywhere from one store all the way up through 5, 10, 15 stores, some of the corporate ones. But a lot of these guys are family owned and they just have 1, 2, 3, 4 stores. And the AD is relatively subject to whatever it is that Rolex in Geneva wants to do for them, what they want to ship them, what they want them to charge. They are sort of like under orders to do as they're told. Now, in the United States of America, we have Rolex USA. They employ representatives that deal with all the ADs here in America. And guess who is the chief financial officer, the CFO of Rolex USA? I can't believe I didn't know this until recently. Yes, his name would be Mark Goldberg, different than mine. By the way, mine is Mark with a C, and I'm going to stick my email address right there if you would like to email me your comments and thoughts about this or any other related topic. So Rolex ship watches from Geneva, Switzerland over here to the United States, for example. We're a fairly typical market, and then they go to all the various ADs. Now, the ADs are getting fewer watches than they have call for, and that's in all parts of the world, in the United States, Asia, Middle East, wherever you are, the supply is less than what is the demand. Now, I think that that's for a combination of factors. Some of it is within Rolex's control, and some of it is not. The part that's in its control is they continue to market the heck out of them, and they're spending $1 billion every decade in order to push the watches out. So of course people want them, given that there's just so much marketing is going into the brand. But then you have things like, we had the worldwide situation in which people quit traveling. And so the sort of things that people spent money on, they quit, and that. So then, unfortunately, the poor got poorer and the rich got richer. So the people who had money still have it. They just had less cruises and less jet setting to spend it on. And so they started putting it into watches, even gold watches, sort of as a weird hedge against inflation, if you will. So Rolex definitely became the brand. And if they produce the commonly held number of 1 million watches, well, gosh, they could really sell 2 million. And that really has been the problem. So that caused the secondary market to bubble up. And then there are these instances where certain watches have just gone crazy, and I will throw a couple of them in right here. This is the so-called Tiffany Blue Oyster Perpetual in 41 millimeters, more accurately called turquoise. This watch retails for $5,900, but you can't get it. It has been in incredibly short supply since shortly after release. It went from about 6,000 MSRP, doubled to 12,000 on the secondary market, quickly rose to $18,000. Then the Patek Philippe came out with the Tiffany Blue Nautilus, and this thing then jumped up into the $30,000 to $40,000 range, and they have just gone extremely crazy now, really irritating collectors. This rapid and sudden, unexplainable, and probably unsustainable quick rise in this watch really upset a lot of people. Fortunately, I managed to snag one, but I know a lot of people are angry about it. The Panda Daytona is another example of watch that is really impossible to get or very, very difficult at MSRP. And I'm very grateful that I managed to do exactly that. So thank you so much to Brian, John, and Jim over at James and Sons in Orland Park, Illinois, for selling me this watch. It really, in some senses, guys, it's a privilege to be able to buy one of these at MSRP. And of course, naturally, that's upsetting to a lot of people. If you happen to be one of the people who want one and can't get one, I sympathize. It took me years to get this watch, and you should be able to buy what you have the money for. And it is distressing that this is going for triple and four times retail on the gray market. Crazy. I blame Rolex for this. They could make more, or they could control the gray market better. So I am fortunate enough to have both of those watches. One of them I purchased at a ridiculously inflated gray market price because I thought that it was going to rise. I just never counted on the Patek Philippe to drive it up as quickly as it has. And then the other one, of course, the Panda, it's just terribly hard to get because Rolex makes one of those for probably every 50, maybe even 100 people who want one. And that has been the issue for like about the past decade. Look, when certain watches go insane overnight, like the Turquoise Blue, y'all get mad at me when I call it Tiffany. Okay, fine, we'll call it Turquoise Blue. So when watches go like nuts, literally overnight, when a $5,900 watch becomes instantly, without any warning, becomes a $30,000, $40,000 watch, I understand it makes you angry. The comments that I get from people are, Goldberg, you're a jerk, you're part of the problem. Or, congratulations, you managed to snag one of the last so-called cheap ones, even though I paid triple retail. But now they're like 4 and 5 times retail, which is bothersome. All I wanted to know, fellas, is that if I wanted to dump out of it later in life, that I wouldn't get creamed on the price. That's all I wanted to know. I wasn't trying to make a killing. And who knows if it's sustainable. I understand that we're looking at listing prices on Chrono, and that doesn't tell us if they were really sold. So it's going to take some time before these sales percolate into eBay, and we can check sold prices on eBay and see, realistically what they're really going for. If you know anything about actual sales of the Rolex OP41 in turquoise, actual sales, if you bought one recently or if you sold one, just tell me about the numbers in the comments so that we can start assembling our own numbers. But it's distressing, okay? And when a Panda is $13,000 at the authorized dealer and it's $38,000 or $40,000 on the gray market, it just upsets a lot of people. The weird thing is, I feel like if Rolex's MSRP was $35,000 for the Daytona, people would just pay $35,000 for it and they wouldn't be mad. I mean, like, I don't get mad that I can't afford a Bugatti. Like, it's just out of my price range, right? So I'm not angry at the price. But I think if the Bugatti was, supposed to be at the dealer for $50,000, and then the dealer was adding on a $500,000 markup on top of, the $50,000 or whatever it is, because I'm not really a car guy, but you get my drift. I would then be angry at the brand. And that's what it is with Rolex. So they're tolerating the gray market. I feel like they're, in some sense, almost contributing to the problem. I've spoken out about this before. I think that Rolex could buy back a whole lot more watches out of the gray market, research these serial numbers, figure out which ADs are like just hustling them, pumping them right into the gray market. Bypassing people like us. Guys, if you own a watch and then a year later, 2 years later, 10 years later, you have a situation or you get bored with that watch and you want to sell it, well, you're allowed to sell your own property. And there's zero problem with that. But the issue becomes what happens when the AD, the bad AD, sells straight out the back door right to the gray market tier. And that hurts people like you and me because it drives the price straight up. And you know who else it hurts? It hurts the good AD, the ones who are playing by the rules and who are making more limited profits on more limited supply. I mean, remember, the AD makes money by selling watches, so they want to sell you a watch. The problem is the good ones just don't have enough watches to sell you. There are more of you than there are of them. And if you're a bad AD, well, you people are part of the problem. There's just too much money in it for me to expect that you're ever going to stop. But I do hope that Rolex cracks down on you, and honestly, it won't be hard. So one of these days, I think that you're going to get a visit from your rep or a letter, and you're just going to have the line yanked right out of your store. And I think that nobody will celebrate that more than the good ADs who are playing by the rules. Because guys, it is always harder and less profitable to play by the rules. But at the end of the day, I just want to talk to you about our feelings towards the brand. And what I would tell you is, this is just me personally. I will not be put off a brand just because there are a bunch of posers and idiots and gray marketeers and profiteers in messing with the brand. It doesn't bother me. I don't buy the watch to impress anybody. Well, as you can see, because I'm wearing a ball watch right now, which I like very much. So you should buy Rolex for yourself. I'll tell you who some of the angriest people are. I enjoy the Rolex forum. There's one on Facebook. I forget the exact name of it, but I'm kind of active in this one forum over on Rolex. And Tim Masso has a nice, smaller but really nice Talking Watches with Tim Masso group on Facebook. So I encourage you guys to take a look at that. And then of course my old favorite, modern day watch enthusiasts. But the reality is that particularly in the Rolex group, I don't really understand why a guy joins the Rolex group when all he wants to do is trash Rolex and people who get Rolex. Because it's just, I think that group, there's like 100,000 people in it. I bet you only 30,000 people actually own a Rolex or two. So it can really put you off the brand, I think, when you have so many naysayers, so many people accusing you of buying fakes and being a poser and being part of the gray market problem. If you ever bought a watch on the secondary market, I'd never pay over MSRP for anything. The market will, to some extent, determine what the watch is worth. So here's the thing. I honestly feel like, it's getting a little dangerous to wear a Rolex. So I love the brand, but like I wouldn't go short sleeve, just anywhere now. Either long sleeve, but I feel like all of us need a selection of, you need a Breitling or two, you need an Omega, you need a micro brand. And I have a couple few of those as well. I've got a drawer full of Seikos, which I love. And there are times when I just don't want to wear a Rolex, and there's times when I don't even think it's necessarily safe to wear a Rolex. Put me off the brand? No. I like the brand. I know it's not the highest horology. I know that Patek Philippe, Aldemar, Piguet, Vacheron, et Constantin, FP Jean, and all these French names that hurt my face to say these names. I know that on the technical level, they are better watches. I understand that. And guess what? I don't care. Rolex, for at least my generation, and actually for so many generations that are coming now that are all of a sudden getting into watch collecting, Rolex. I am not put off the brand. I am put off the mess, the sort of like dirty cloud that surrounds the watch. But when you finally manage to talk an AD into selling you one, believe me guys, you will feel really proud and happy that you did that. Let's talk about this in the comments, and here's what I want to know. Are you put off the brand, or can you just ignore all the controversy and focus on the beauty of the watch itself? Can you just enjoy the watch? Guys, this is Mark Goldberg. I'm not wearing a Rolex at all today. Join me next time. Please subscribe, like this video. We'll do this again soon. Goldberg, peace out.
Paint the sky your favorite.